In 2007, Wolverhampton Archaeology Group was asked by Adrian Durkin, the exhibitions officer for Dudley Museum and Art Gallery, to undertake a geophysical survey in the grounds of Himley Hall to try to locate the site of the original moated manor house. The village of Himley is recorded in the Domesday Book as being held by William Fitzansculf, and the earliest reference to Himley Hall is believed to be recorded in the Inventory of Lands following the death of William de Beresford in 1326. Between 1740 and 1752, the old manor house was completely replaced, the new house being built slightly to the north and east of the old house so it can continue in use during its construction. After initial geophysical surveys and test pits, in 2012 the remains of a building were found, which later turned out to be the old church, which was demolished in 1764. Finding this in turn offered up even more fascinating insight into the area. Subsequent years and 42 test pits later eventually revealed more of the story of Himley's missing church. In 2019, Wolverhampton Archaeology were asked to create an exhibition to be displayed in the South Wing, demonstrating our findings to the public, revealing the story of Himley Hall. Let us take you on a quick tour of what we found out. Today, Himley Church lies beside the Dudley Road and has done since 1764, following the demolition of an older church closer to the hall, which can be seen here on this 1752 plan by Richardson. The thing to note about this is the interesting shape of the churchyard, which has a notch in it. This lines up exactly with plans of a church and churchyard held in the Lichfield diocese from 1763. Meaning the older church is likely to also date to around that time or earlier. We also knew the size of this church because the Lichfield plans gave the dimensions of the building. This image here shows the floor plans of both the current and older churches, from when the former was being designed. It's interesting to see how similar the plans are, and possibly how similar the churches themselves may have actually looked. In 2012, we started putting in test pits at the site of the older church, near to the Himley Hall ha-ha, under the guidance of Professor Mick Aston. One of the first things we found was a buttress in the southeast corner of the church, a promising start. This gave us a fixed point from which to extrapolate the footprint based on the Richardson 1752 map and the Lichfield plans. The test pit we dug towards the east end of the church contained much of the east wall, with smatterings of plaster and even window glass. And this is where we hit the really interesting stuff. From underneath the east wall emerged another wall. This wall was from a building which wasn't on an east-west orientation, and was the first glimpse at an even older, forgotten church below the one we'd been digging. When we dug down to explore this new building, we uncovered an encaustic tile, which dates to the late 13th, early 14th centuries. So to recap, we think that not only have we found the old church that belonged to Himley Hall, demolished in 1764, we've also found an even earlier medieval church in its footprint, one that likely served the old Himley village. When we began excavating, we found plenty of shroud pins, and some human remains, including a skull. Clearly, people were being buried close to the church wall. Now, with this 18th century engraving of Himley Church and the parsonage house, we were hoping to prove or disprove if the picture was really that of the demolished church, or the current church still standing today. However, the demolished church plan shows a plethora of architectural differences to all of the sketches and engravings we have access to, and it's difficult to determine exactly which church each image shows. This may be partly down to artistic license and or remembering details of earlier versions of the churches. However, we're fairly confident that all of the images that we have are of the current church, both pre-restoration when there was no porch and the tower seems to have had a cupola and finials, and post-restoration when these features were changed. Now this plan marks the positions of the test pits in which we discovered medieval pottery, some iron-rich sandyware, Midlands white, and medieval orangeware. The finds clearly cluster closely around the church, so this suggests to us that the old village of Himley was nestled around the old church for a very long time, from the medieval period into the post-medieval period. We can then see that it moved southwest in the middle of the 18th century to make way for the new hall, as a greater proportion of post-medieval wares are found here. So we set out to find out whether the isolated building shown just outside the Ha-Ha on the Richardson map was indeed the older church. We feel we've demonstrated that this is indeed the case, and we found evidence that there was an even older medieval church underneath it. So far we've been unable to find any images of these churches, but we will keep investigating. If you have found this interesting and want to learn more, our full set of reports is on our website, link in the description below, but you can also check out our latest projects and monthly talks.